Here we have some tidal data from NOAA. This is from the Tybee Light Station. So we can see here that behind the green line we have our past tides. And then on this area of the green line, these are the tide predictions for the future. So we've got this nice curved line here. We can see that on this axis of the graph, we're measuring the height in feet of the water. 0 would be sea level, or our mean lower water mark, which is the average of sea level. So we can see here we had our low tide sometime between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. on our graph, and the low tide was at negative 0.66 feet. Next had our high tide, and this was the one that we went and saw down by the marsh behind the school, was an 8.89 foot high tide. So when I asked you in the Google form yesterday, what is the tidal range? And is the tidal range the same each day? The tidal range is the difference between our low tide and our high tide. So we have to find out 8.89 feet, and we're going to add that negative 0.66 feet to that, and we would have the tidal range. When you're looking at the graph, one thing I want you to notice is if the tidal range is the exact same each day. So do we have the same difference in tide each day? Another thing to think about is the tidal period the same each day. So is there the amount of time in between two successive high tides? So if we have this high tide here, and then we have another high tide here, and then another high tide here at 8.57 foot tide, is the amount of time that's passing in between each high tide relatively the same? Do we have high and low tide at the same time each day? The data that you can find plotted on the graph is also available here in table form. So we can see here that on October 19th, the high tide was at 10:34 a.m., but on Tuesday, October 20th, the high tide is at 11:31 a.m. So is high tide at the same time each day? And if not, why do you think that is? So looking at the data here, you can see for today's date, October 19th is a Monday, and we've got all of our tides listed. The time of the first low tide, just right here, the time of the first high tide and the height, low tide, and then high tide again. All of that information is there for us, and I'm going to be asking you to analyze some tidal data on your own. So if you have any questions about what you're viewing, please let me know.